Alright, in honor of the new Resident Evil Requiem game that's coming out this Friday, and the 30th anniversary that's coming out sometime this year, I figured, why not, do my history of... My first encounter of Resident Evil is when I was a kid, when I was 8 years old, I was watching videos on YouTube, watching boss fight videos, saying, what is this? Resident Evil what? So I clicked it and thought, wow, I want to play it. And while I was watching the video, I was thinking of a Resident Evil character in that movie Shrek, which was my favorite movie at that time. A few weeks later, when I was watching Resident Evil Darkside Chronicles, my dad caught me watching one of the cutscene videos when Ada Wong shoots like Mr. X. Later on in 2010, I watched the first Resident Evil movie on HBO or Cinemax. I was thinking, wow, I want to watch more Resident Evil movies before Resident Evil Afterlife. And then 2011, I watched Resident Evil Apocalypse and Resident Evil Extinction on TNT. In February of 2011, I watched Resident Evil Afterlife on pay-per-view. And then later on in 2012, when I saw the Resident Evil 3 Nemesis GameCube game at Doubleheader, I was thinking, while I was getting the Turok games. September 2012, when I was about to get Resident Evil 2 on the GameCube, and then on October, that is the moment where it changed my life forever. I got, Resident Evil, the remake, and Resident Evil 4. October 5th, 2012, 3 days after Resident Evil 6 came out, which was the newest at the time. And when I beat Resident Evil 4, twice in November, and I beat Resident Evil 2, which is when I got Resident Evil 2 on October of 2012, the following week, along with Super Monkey Ball 2. And when I beat Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 4 is my favorite game because not just the gameplay and stuff, and because of how much of an impact it has left on me. It made me appreciate horror as an art form. And I got Resident Evil 0, which was a decent game. Not as good as the others, but it was a decent game. In January, I got Resident Evil Code Veronica X on the PS2. I even got other horror games too, as a result of me beating Resident Evil 4. The Suffering, Kuon, Dino Crisis, Silent Hill, all that kind of stuff. And then 2014 is when I got the Resident Evil comic book from a Doubleheader comic book day sale. I was 13 when I got it. And 2014 is when my brother CJ got Resident Evil 6 on the PS3 with. 2016 is when everything changed for me. I moved from Arkansas to California, and almost all my Resident Evil games were gone. And the only Resident Evil game I played at that from 2016 through 2020 was Resident Evil 6 on PS3, Resident Evil 0 on Xbox One Game Pass, and Resident Evil Revelations 2 on the Xbox One. Till then, nothing. In 2019, I saw the movie Resident Evil Revelations, which was a really good movie. And then later on, I saw bits and pieces of Resident Evil Final Chapter, and I remember watching Chris Stuckman's video of Resident Evil Final Chapter over and over at that point. I was thinking, that video is hilarious. I just want to see what it's like. And Resident Evil Final Chapter is one of the worst action movies I've ever seen at that point. I was thinking the editing is so bad, you can't even tell what was going on and stuff. And back to the games, okay? In 2020, I officially rebought Resident Evil 4 on the Xbox One, along with Code Veronica and Resident Evil 1 on the Xbox One. It made me feel like a kid again. Reclaim Resident Evil 4 as my favorite game of all time. My favorite game of all time in my California, like Roseville era, is Battlefield 4. My favorite game now is Resident Evil 4. 2020, in Christmas of 2020, I got the Resident Evil 2 remake, and in 2021, when Resident Evil Village came out, which is the 8th one at that time, I begged to get that game. And then on my 20th birthday, when I finally got Resident Evil Village, and I loved it. And a few days later, after my 20th birthday, I got Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. It turned out to be one of the most terrifying games I've ever played, along with Resident Evil 1, which is a pretty scary game, if you ask me. In 2025, I was playing this game called Resident Evil 4 Remake. When I heard they were remaking Resident Evil 4, I was thinking, oh god, please no. You've already re-released it so many times. Why would you need to go back to the well? And when I played and 2 years later, when I got the PS4, and I played the Resident Evil 4 Chainsaw demo, I was impressed of how much they're able to keep what was in the original game into the remake, which is an example of a demo done right. When a demo does something good, it makes you want to play the actual game itself. I mean, the demo is supposed to show the highlights, not boring. And now, fast forward to 2 years later, in 2026, I pre-ordered Resident Evil Requiem, and I'm so excited to play the game. And in 2022, when I saw Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, my first reaction was, it was alright, gets the job done. And a year later, when I watched it again, I was thinking, oh, please God, no. What did you do? Happy 30th anniversary, Resident Evil. And I'm excited to play Resident Evil Requiem. At the end, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and share. I'm the Rob Zone, and have a good day. Thanks for watching.